Hi everyone, thank you so much for joining wherever you are. Like I can see, it's people joining from all over the world: New York City, Romania, Paris, Sweden, Norway, everyone from everywhere, I would say. And I'm excited for this webinar because it's going to be quite practical, kind of return from the actual experience of practitioners of and how security teams can escape kind of manual work with the efficient workflows that they build internally and with their teams, and together kind of succeeded to make an impact today. And so today I'm joined by Gabriel Berrios, an application security engineer at Schibsted, and Daniel Ilias, IT security engineer at Visma. I think maybe to get started, guys, you can tell a little bit more about what you do, about your job, and kind of a little bit present yourself. Maybe Gabriel, you can start.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me to this webinar. Feels nice to be participating and sharing some knowledge. Yeah, so I work as an application security engineer at Schibsted. Schibsted is a media house. We have several newspapers and technologies in Norway, and we work in different levels. In AppSec, mostly we work with I would say that we work at every level from code to application. So it's a quite varied. Happy to be here.
And you, Daniel?
Yeah, hi. So I'm Daniel. I'm located in Romania. Uh, I'm in like IT field working in this industry for more than 17 years now. But in Visma, I'm for almost 7 years now. And I'm working as a security engineer. I have different responsibility during this year, but all with the same scope, securing Visma web applications with Visma products. And currently, I am the DAST owner in Visma.
Yes, well, both of you have a lot of experience in this field. Definitely a lot of insights to share just for maybe our listeners. Firstly, we wanted to kind of chat about the challenges that you both face in your day-to-day job, and then switch to the practical advice that you can give to other security teams in their day-to-day. And then just at the end, I wanted to show also the a new workflows feature that we built at Escape that can be also useful. I think I definitely know other customers are also going to watch the webinar, and also can be useful for them, something that they can already start implementing and building in their day to day. So maybe to get started, I think the first question that I have is what resource constraints do you face most often day to day in your work? I know maybe I think you, Daniel, can start to answer that.
Oh yeah, so when I took the ownership of the DAST service, we have DAST as a service in Visma. Uh, the main issue that I had was the manpower because there was simply not enough colleagues to help me with all these scans and making them uh, to get the most value from this service. So to be honest, this was my initial biggest um, issue when I started to be involved in Dust.
And for you, Gabriel, I know you're not using only, for example, DAST on your side, but also more tools. What was kind of the biggest challenges that you've seen?
Yeah, so we use Dust in one layer, but we use also like cloud tools to scan cloud resources. We scan code. We have also a bug bounty program, so we work on every level. But since we are a large organization as well, that means that our time is limited because there is continuous delivery development cycles that are releasing new products all the time. and the responsibilities there are also on each team. Therefore, to be able to align with those teams might be also a bit time consuming, right? Um, and we want to scan deeper, and we want to be able to scale that scanning at some point. We want to cover all our areas and all our resources as way as possible with all the tools that we use today. And the challenges mostly can be constrained by engineering priorities, I would say. For example, you have a central team that is pushing something, and might take some time for us to align with them regarding some vulnerabilities as well. So, like time coverage and progress is kind of well together, I would say, in that
And
area.
how do you approach this alignment with the engineering teams?
Yeah, we'll mention it a bit later, but yeah, we have like a security champion program, so we speak to them.
Okay, then I think maybe one thing that we wanted also to discuss kind of together is maybe you can walk us through, one of the process that was eating up, your team's time, since you both kind of, mentioned you work, in a very decentralized also organizations with a lot of engineering teams that you need alignment with, that we kind of just discussed. Maybe this, since we talked about it, yeah, Daniel, you can start.
Yeah, so a lot of what we did to get a lot of time from our side was getting the reports. We had to do it in like in a central way for all the teams. Then was also a pain initially to dealing with the scans, uh, starting with the creation of the scans, maintaining, and then we have authenticated scans that uh, required a lot of resources to make it run smoothly and successfully for every scan. Then also the regular fixing of errors like timeouts or auto logging off. It's always place for custom settings in every scan uh, that you have. So yeah, this was taking a lot of time on our side for sure.
How long did it take?
Wow, most of the times. But now you mean from we have like the teams and we as a central place where we manage all this. You mean for the teams exactly, or the most difficult was like from me as the central point because I was like mostly had to do all these things because of some reasons that we can discuss later on, probably. But yeah.
Okay, since you were acting, as central point, what maybe what advice can you give also in collaboration with the other teams, with other points within the security team? Because I think central point is also might be like a lot of pressure.
Yes, I had a pretty good collaborations. We also had that security champions modeling. So from each team, from each product, in each team, we have a security champion, which is my point of contact. And finally, we changed this way of working after we contracted Escape because we have this possibility to give them access to their own scan and make all this in an automatic way. But this is the main reason for which we manage this program in a central place.
Okay, so you kind of enabled your security champions also to connect, for example, in your case, Escape, to use that efficiently.
Yes, this is our goal to empower the teams to take care of their own scans and we provide all the solutions they need, all the tools. We provide the ways to measure their performance regarding the security or their security posture, but we empower the product teams to take care of all of this. Now that we have, I would say, the proper tool to do this.
How do you measure their performance?
Maybe it's a question
Question
a
for
little bit later,
Okay,
but
that's I will keep that in mind because I think this
yes,
is like whenever you talk, I kind of have all those questions for sure. To
yeah, we have an interesting way to do that, but I think we have some slide
okay,
maybe
okay,
later.
I'll keep that for later.
Good.
Maybe you on this side, Gabriel, can share like one of the process that you had that was quite difficult for you.
Yeah, so first when I started in Schibsted, we went through a process that the company split to a different company. So we were kind of a new team with a new, almost new company, right? With new challenges as well. And one of those challenges was that the first part where before we even started to thinking about how we want to work and we work with the security champions, we needed to go through a migration process and like migrate everything that we had uh, before the split. Then we need to. That was one challenge because it was very time consuming. It was a lot of work and everything, like the duplication of systems and everything, and making sure that the systems were migrated properly from a security perspective as well. And then after that, when that was done, we had the period of deciding what the tools we want to keep, and then we can create new ways of working and new rules. So there were some systems that we removed and introduced new ones, and Escape is one of those systems. We use it as a DAST scanner as well. And yeah, some challenges at the start as well as to getting all on board, all onboarded, and also manage the conversation with the security champions, and that they will also kind of have the ownership of their vulnerabilities as well from a more global perspective, I would say, because since we have a lot of cross collaboration, then it's more natural that some teams might have the permissions to see more than others and so on. Um, and also another thing that can be a bit on this area as well is like manage like manual triage and validation of findings, actually confirming the exploitability and assess the impact is something that I use plenty of time with, because sometimes it's good to actually know if the issue is exploitable or not. Uh, and if it is exploitable, then we would like to forward it with the team, um, and during a certain time of period, like SLA, right? If it's something very critical, we would like to address it immediately, and so on. Um, but yeah, manual triage and validation, it's something that is a challenge that I work with personally. But from a team perspective, right, we have been through this migration process and getting on board with the new tooling that we selected for the new process, right?
And how would you define the onboarding success? What would be like successful onboarding for you?
It would be that everyone that are working with the handling vulnerabilities, um, from every team, engineering team would be kind of on board and then start reducing the vulnerabilities and work from there, like patching the vulnerabilities that we find and so on, that the scanner detects.
Okay.
Mm.
And for example, for triage, do you have like since you mentioned accessing the impact, do you have any metrics that you measure this impact with?
Well, that will depend on the technology, I would say, but from a metrics perspective, I would say that I mean, how can you measure something that is, for example, ongoing?
Mm.
Uh, New vulnerabilities appear all the time, and therefore it's something ongoing. So it could be, for example, to measure something by year, right? That last year we had so many incidents or so many criticals. Now we have less and so on. And then you are part of a zero critical club, they call it. But
Yeah.
yeah, so but we're working on that. I mean, the vulnerability management measure that it's I think it's an ongoing process. I would say.
And for you, Daniel, do you also measure, for example, do you have a specific way to do vulnerability measurement on your side?
Yes, we do have like an internal tool where we measure the whole Visma security program, where it's not only about DAST, but we have many other solutions. But to talk about DAST, we have few checks that we do there. We basically, yes, we measure it. It's exactly, I think, in the next slide, but I can talk now about it if you want.
I mean, if you want, I can switch to your next slide
Yeah,
if it helps.
yeah. Uh, yeah, so this is what we are doing. We basically have a clear expectation from each team. Each team have to be in a specific tier, right? So we have different levels. The platinum is the most secure one, let's say. And if a team or product have that target to be on the platinum tier, then we'll have to get uh, all the points from all the services. And for example, for Dust, who is not onboarded on Dust will take some amount of, we can say, penalty points, or you can put bullets or something else, and doesn't matter. Um, but they will, well, let's say penalty points, if you like that. Uh, and those points can accumulate. So if you miss multiple targets, then it will be impossible for a product to stay on that tier, like platinum, let's say. Uh, for this, we measure if the team is onboarded to Dust, then for example, if they have old vulnerabilities that are not fixed based on the severity, we have clear targets like for how many days do they have to fix a critical vulnerability, high, medium, and so on. So initially, when a new vulnerability appears, we'll not apply any, will not take any action. Only if they don't take action and fix it in in the SLA, basically the agreed time they have to fix every vulnerability based on the severity. Then this is something else that we will want to we measure, but we want to do it in an automatic way with escape. For example, to check if the scan really is running successfully. Even more, the scan can be success, but if there is no authentication or authentication is failing, you will not scan anything behind the login. So again, the scan will not uh, bring a lot of value. So these are again very useful, and you can play with this as you want. So for example, you can decide if a product is not doesn't have any success scan for a while, a month, or whatever you want to decide, then apply again some black bullets or some penalty points or whatever. But yeah, this is how we work, how we measure the team performance. And again, it's not only about Dust, but we have many other services in our in Visma security program.
And the people that get to the platinum level, what do they get? Any presents, swag, or recognition? Company wild, all hands. They have achieved that. Like, how do you succeed to keep them?
Well, from the security team, I don't think we offer them any bonus or something, but it's simply they are there because they have to be there. It's not the security team that sets that those targets for the teams, but it's from the management.
Mm,
So they have to stay there. If they are there, all good. If not, then it might, I don't know. But
performance
that's
review.
not my issue anymore. It's not my part anymore. We just gave them the tools and measurement system, and that's it. That's my job. Then what happens? I don't know.
Yeah, probably the then performance reviews being impacted, well, positively or negatively, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, yes, they have to deal with higher management and I don't know the exact consequences.
If because for you, Gabriel, you also have you told the security champion program that you've
Yeah.
implemented within with the organization. Is it something that on your side? How do you reward people? How does it work?
Uh, we usually, well, we if something happens, we give a monthly shout out, but we have also monthly sessions with them, with all the teams to see that to collaborate on reducing the vulnerabilities and so on. And there are teams that are more compliant on that level than others, and so on, because of the technologies they are using and maybe the capacity of the engineering team that they have more engineers working on it and so on. So that can vary, I guess. We don't have a like a program to like reward yet, but it sounded like a good idea too.
Yeah, if you
Inspiring idea, yeah.
Yeah, if you have a budget, depending, yeah, on that, I think I've tried on our site to reward the developers to publish the content.
Yeah.
With some, well, with usually with food that helps a little bit, but yeah, also on our site. And I think on you also, if you can share on your side the example of the workflow that kind of implemented, I think that made the impact.
Yeah, so there are two things that can make impact on from if you want to measure it. Um, like for example, it's important that, like I mentioned, that the security champions that are part of the program, that is our job to make sure that they are having a good tool adoption, and that's on every level, not only that scanner, but from code scanning, from cloud scanning, web application scanning, and so on. Bug bounty is a bit different, the measurement, but I would say that maybe how long, how fast we patch everything, or how many criticals we have, or mediums, and so on, or how much money we pay out. Um, so to integrate them in that process properly, um, so the vulnerability reduction and the tool gets used effectively, like you can get the best out of the tool, right? Um, I wrote also automation, and this is something that kind of I work on a more personal level. That I would like to um, have a risk-based triage. For example, like if the finding that we are having in our scanning tool is actually exploitable or not, and as I mentioned before, this is very time-consuming. So there are ways of doing that on a more automated level to either uh, help you on that process, right? For that you can use different technologies, and that's kind of goals for this year to get more into that area to solve the challenges there, right? To see, okay, is this vulnerability clearly exploitable or not, and why? And why is it exploitable or why is it not? exploitable. Then we can also reduce the noise fatigue or false positives and so on. And to also work together with the team security champions, right? We have alerting. There are teams that set up alert channels on Slack, for example, and then get alerts on the findings. We also get emails, and we need to make sure that we align on that with the tool adoption, so they can um, actually be on board and be on the right project folder, and to be able to manage their vulnerability and be alert of the findings that they have in the correct channel, right?
Yeah, I think for you the projects part is something I know that you've pushed
Yeah,
quite a lot
yeah.
to be
No, it's
able
easy.
to kind of organize
Yeah.
everything and make sure, yeah, only the dedicated teams get the right visibility. I want to get back a bit on the clearly defined exploitability criteria.
Mm-hmm.
Since
Mm-hmm.
you mentioned you kind of evaluate and think what can be exploitable or what's not exploitable, how and it's in automated way, like how do
Mm-hmm.
you find and integrate actually, like, this automation internally? Because exploitability is something I've heard a lot of people having conversations on uh,
Mm-hmm.
last year. So I think it's very interesting to know, like, how specific, like, what tools do you use to evaluate that, what people do you actually combine to decide that.
Mm. Yeah, that's a combination because it's a bit of you would require a bit of experience as well to know exactly what to, if this how to proceed, right? Um, and that can be achieved by many ways, like certifications, CTFs, or just pen testing or testing in general, right? And then you have the tool adoption, which means that at least in Schibsted we have like availability of different technologies, and you can use scripting. You can use also AI agents to do this better. For example, gather a lot of information about some particular vulnerability based on experience and based on um, the available data that you have, and then have that stored and train it a bit to run it against and different tests. I guess, yeah, I would say that's the case.
Mm. And how did you integrate already AI agents, like, in the workflow?
Yeah, well, also I see also that, for example, Escape is also using this as well. So it's what's kind of like inspiration there. You can you can give it a certain type of system instruction on how to behave when you scan, for example, and you can have that same instructions on the agent, for example, to gather the vulnerability, test it against something like a sandbox environment or something, and see if you can get an exploit or not. If it's exploitable, then it's a value to the teams, because it's better for the teams to have like one or two, three really real findings than 100 informational.
Hmm.
So that can like help a lot, right?
And for you, Daniel, did you also try to already experiment with AI or integrate any, like, anything within the automation that's more AI based?
Regarding the triaging, not yet, but yeah, it's very interesting, and I heard what Gabriel mentioned, but we currently didn't do that.
I think there is actually a good question in the chat regarding if any of you want to take that. Are there any AI limitations you place on your engineers? Because, well, you're from security teams, so it's can be yeah, a bit
Yeah,
tricky.
that's a good conversation, and that's a conversation that we have in the org a lot, because what happens when an organization, for example, says, okay, we want to push more, we will allow it when we'll have agreement with certain technologies, and we will allow it under certain conditions. What are the conditions, right?
Yeah.
Well, the conditions are like, there's two schools. There are people that know development and know coding and might use it as a support, right? Understand and say like, okay, this model is totally hallucinating. So I'm not going to move forward with that. And you have people working on that area that don't, are not so experienced in coding, but still tries out and then make something that might be vulnerable, and then we have a problem, right? And I have encountered that in sometimes, like people pushing things to production that they shouldn't push to production, and you end up having something um, that is vulnerable. And where are the limitations? So we need to go, like, go back and actually create guidelines, have policies around it, what's allowed and what's not allowed. Like there are certain things that are allowed, the technologies that we might been allowed to use, and that we have agreements with, right? Enterprise agreements, so on, and others it's not, basically.
Yeah, I think on my side, I'm an low code, no code person, so definitely try to pay attention at least with some tools that I'm using on
So,
you know, on that side. Um, just
yeah,
to,
what I wanted to answer to that question is like the limitations we put in place for the engineers. Like it's a very interesting question because, for example, if people start pushing too much projects and then they want to have it in production, how do we kind of detect that? So if you cannot contain it, because if you try to contain it, then they will just go around the managed device and try to, I don't know, do it anyways, right? And then what happens? And then you have a huge problem. So the limitation is like to, or the improvement is to kind of improve on the detection part, right? And if you and establish a rule, let's say, for example, okay, you are not so experienced developer. If you want to maybe push something or create a project, involve people that have experience in it, right? Like developers. They can review the code, put it in a repository that it's scanned maybe, and then we can improve the detection on there. And if it should be pushed in production, it should be approved, right? I would say that it's the one good way of putting a limitation. Yeah.
yeah, basically, the good communication is definitely,
Yeah.
I think, the key in all of those cases.
Yeah.
And I think maybe before there are other couple of questions in the chat, but I think we can address them also at the end. So both of you were talking kind of about the changes that you have of either on the DAST side or kind of talking about like redoing all the tooling as well. And I think the question is like, how did you justify change also to the leadership, like being more automated, improving the efficiency, something we talked about, since quite often it's not always possible to challenge the status quo and do the change, so you kind of need to find a way to justify that. Maybe on your side, Daniel had something to add there.
Well, yeah, probably not here, but this is also how I like to work, but specifically um, on my job currently, I'm always trying to come with something with a good POC to demonstrate what for what I want to implement a change and show the advantages, but also the disadvantages. Um, I think having some good POC and comparing with you probably already have a solution or something, comparing with what you have and highlighting the advantages. I think it's a good approach. I mean, for me, always worked.
And what do you define as kind of, yeah, really more detail, maybe good POC? Because good can be very different for each organization.
Yeah, well, depends how what the change is about, right? You'll have to cover the most scenarios to convince someone and show all the possibilities and all the things that can happen, the good ones, or what could go wrong, or what are your findings during a POC. It's depends on what are you testing, but try to cover the most realistic scenarios and as many as possible.
Did you show like any metrics at the end that was helpful?
Yeah, that's for sure.
Pro-
Even for the escape case was pretty similar. So after the POC, we also shared like um, advantages, disadvantages, and also um, the numbers. Yeah,
Yeah, I guess yeah, probably can't share the numbers on your side, which is so yeah, understandable. They just yeah, kind of.
yeah,
I mean, I know how it was on the Escape side, but yeah, I just think it's quite interesting point. And for you, Gabriel, how did you justify that?
Yeah, I think there's two ways here. Like what as I said earlier, right?
Yeah,
So we have the Security Champions
yeah,
program. Like uh, and to talk to leadership about that is something that is tangible, right? It's something that you can kind of show. Like okay, you have this program. This is how you're working, and then embedding better security so that engineers and the teams that are part of this have ownership of that process. And I would say that that's kind of the same that Daniel mentioned earlier, right? That to have a bit more ownership of your technology and vulnerabilities. And how can you show that to like, your leadership is that the remediation cycles then end up being shorter and shorter every time, and that's a good thing, right? And also, for example, when you have like, as I mentioned, also that you have a leadership that is pushing for this the AI technology adoption, then it's easier to use and triage something with a defined criteria with correct controls, right? So we can use something that is already approved in our benefit.
okay. Yeah, so the leadership has to actually also push for AI adoption, which helps
Yeah,
general yeah, kind of definition and the priority for like maybe the whole year
yeah.
for you. I think before we go to the last part, I wanted you to address one of the questions on the Q&A as well from Siad. What are the general range of improvements in operational efficiency that you're seeing with automation? If you can provide any of a couple of examples. I don't know who wants to to start.
oh,
I think what is usually what Vingy said is trying to see is kind of what are maybe some of the points we already talked there. I
Yeah,
think
I think that could be in the case of like, for example, when you have a large organization and you have like sometimes even siloed a bit, yeah, and you're a smaller team, then automation like can be more efficient from an operational perspective, I would say.
yeah. So automation of the metrics of the measuring system, it's important. So it definitely helps because extracting all the data and showing that to the teams, it will be difficult, but this is like something that automation will help a lot.
yeah, I think it's definitely a very general question because it depends
Yeah, exactly. How to
where
answer
it
that.
is the automation per se and yeah, in what point. I think just maybe in terms like data, what's important yeah, to keep in mind is also depending yeah, if the data that comes in that automation is clean, especially for triaging. It usually takes yeah, a lot of time to tune everything in. And before maybe we can yeah, attach the last part. It's just kind of to sum up our discussion before I spend the last 10 minutes before maybe some additional Q&A, kind of what and showing like new workflows features. What's one piece of advice you would give to someone who feels overwhelmed at this point and doesn't know where to start? Maybe Daniel, you can start.
Yeah, sure. So I was talking about the empower the teams. I think this is one of my advice that you have to empower the product teams and let them take care of most of their security products to take care of it, and probably just have the necessary tools to show them to give them the necessary tools and be transparent. And I also really recommend to transmit that to all the product teams that we don't have to hide anything. Like, for example, they don't have to be afraid if they enroll to DAST and we will find some critical vulnerabilities there. That is actually, uh, it means that the tools and the service have some value, right? We see it like don't have to hide it and don't be aware of what will come after a new product is onboarded to DAST, but let's take advantage of this and be transparent, fix it. You can share it with your colleagues from other products in Visma, how you fixed it, what happened in your case. So be transparent and also create workflows to measure the security posture of every product, because it's like what I like is to every team to see their exact posture. And I don't know, we have our system, but it's important to just click and see where you are comparing with other products in Visma or whatever. But I think these are like mandatory things, if you ask me.
Yeah, because I think actually both of you are from the companies that integrate a lot of products at
Oh
one
yeah,
umbrella. So it's definitely interesting in not one. So it's
in
definitely
Visma we have like few hundred products onboarded to Dust. So yeah.
No.
yeah. And how many new ones do you add per year? Maybe.
I don't know. So Visma is acquiring a lot of other companies. It's like acquiring like 40 to 50 other companies every year. So we probably onboard all of them.
Mm,
Yeah, that's definitely a big challenge.
mm.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And how do you make sure when you're on board? At what point, maybe the question is, at what point do you create those workflows to start measuring their performance?
Well, the workflow is already created,
Mm,
and it's for the entire Visma security program, not only for Dust. And when they on board to Dust, it's only their decision, or any other security um, program in Visma. But as I mentioned, uh, the management is keeping an eye. They can click and see where they have to be and where they are. So they won't stay too much without onboarding to the Visma security programs. And this is mostly because of the workflows and because they can see where they are. And everyone can see where a specific product is when talking about the security.
mm. Do you also, on your side, Gabriel, kind of measuring depending on a brand or product, specifically their performance or their workflows?
With a specific workflow, not yet, I would say. Like we also like we have meetings with them, and then of course the I try to be more on those that are have lower vulnerability, like higher vulnerabilities. For example, I try to be more communicate more and like let them know and schedule meetings to review how we can help and assist and everything. But not like an automated workflow, but we have something,
Mm.
I guess. Like we speak to them, organize meetings.
Mm. And what is your piece of advice for someone who feels overwhelmed?
Yeah, I would say that like security is the shared responsibility in the organization, right? Um, not all vulnerabilities. Like we have so many vulnerabilities every single day that we see everywhere, and then you see suddenly, okay, you have your system might be impacted on that, and so on. And so uh, this is not a problem that security teams can solve alone, right? It requires a collaborative effort to kind of patch stuff and make sure that we are not being exposed and not being hacked and everything, right?
Mm.
And also understanding the system as well. And at the start, if you arrive in the organization or you have a reorg, for example, and then you start moving everything, right? That's a good way to do, right? A good thing to do, like understand your system, read every documentation, and also then it's easier because if you just trust blindfoldly some output from a tool all the time, then it might be easier and the process might be slower. And yeah, the last one, scripting, remove repetitive work. That's a good thing. I recommend that. Yeah.
And what types of scripts did you build, or in what?
I mean, it might depend. For example, we might have scripts that you check how many users are in the assigned to each folder, and then if a new user wants to join and have some access like, to the tooling, then they get synced and then they get access to the tooling and everything. Right? That's one way of scripting it, right? Or scripting against, for example, to scan internal systems to see if something is left behind when you moved or retired the system, for example. That can be also very useful. There's many ways of using scripting.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's definitely, depends on the organization, depends on around also the capabilities within the team and time
Yeah,
to be spent, because, small security teams don't always have time. So that's kind of important to part. We have just 10 minutes
yeah,
left. I want to quickly maybe show the demo of a new escape flows feature. So maybe for those who are, and then we can address a couple of questions, maybe for the remaining couple of minutes there as well. So just wanted to make sure that also for our customers, like that they see it. I think on your side, you're already familiar with the platform. Of course, for those who are maybe listening and not familiar what Escape is in general, it's a combination of attack surface management, DAST, as was mentioned before, and also now it's going to be agentic pen testing. So for this specific demo, wanted to show the new workflows capability, since the topic of this webinar is definitely making sure that the security teams are more efficient, and of course in these scenarios they are. Those workflows are related to escape specifically, which means they will and obviously act whenever it's asset found in attack surface management and issue raised in DAST. So they're related to that, and I think overall I've tried to implement a couple of workflows that were definitely were mentioned to us by customers. Like for example, the one of the workflows that was mentioned quite a lot is how do for the SM users, how do for example we get notified about the authenticated API experts internally in a specific brand, and that get a custom notification, let's say in Slack, or a very specific detailed email depending on the organization. So, for example, in this case, what I wanted to show is that it's very straightforward. Of course, the workflows exist in a lot of different security tools, and I think what was new versus the previous version for those who already it's familiar with escape is that the multitude of options of when the event should be triggered in a workflow, because initially it was a bit more limited. So we talked about that also. I think at the start of the webinar when I wanted to know if something has failed. It's also very important. So it's also this triggers include if something has failed, a scan failed, location down integration has failed as well, which can happen if let's say one of the providers changes their API structure, and then or their credentials has been changed. Definitely something that I've experienced, but also on the positive side when the new issue is raised, asset found, asset updated as well. So what also changed is the filtering part, that it's possible now to create very specific custom filters or use an existing saved view. Here, for example, in this example, I've used an existing saved view, which is possible to configure in the ISM. So in this case, it was view of all the unauthenticated APIs that were exposed externally. So for example, in this case, define the risk external exposure authenticated assets, asset type API, the status that was monitored. And well, just for the sake of this example, I've selected a specific brand that was assigned to the project, Piper brand, and this is the type of the view that can be saved and then reused in workflows as well. And afterwards, what the should workflow do is there are also now possible options. So in this specific example, it's exported as a webhook. I'll add documentation that later in the chat, but webhooks are give the possibility now to have a very custom payload that's being sent depending on what's needed. It's quite useful if the organization has a lot of different parameters that they need to filter on before it gets sent to a dedicated team or a dashboard as well. So the payload is here very custom, and this workflow will run each time the new unauthenticated exposed API is found internally. So for that actually specific workflow, also kind of built out the example of how it can work that you can find. I'll just drop linked in the chat. Oh, I'm not sure. I'm not sure can you see if the audience can see the screen? Because I can see in the chat the question. The screen supposed to be
I think now we can see it, but it was just very small initially.
Okay.
Now it's fine.
Okay, great. I think it just took a bit of time, maybe to load. And it can be pushed directly to webhook. So an example that I've dropped in the chat at the end, you can see the potential example of the payload that's been sent and the link to the documentation as well. So that's just one of the examples, but it's also possible instead of the view, create different filters based on the domain environment tags that you've defined, or even like a search that matches a specific query. And as an output, you can notify. It's very classic, I would say, email, Discord, Teams, Slack. I think it's the ones that have been used quite a lot by the teams. So for the Slack, you can add the Slack webhook URL, and it's just going to be sent directly into your application. And something that, we've been talking about is ACT as well. So for you, Gabriel, too. That's gonna be released this week. So, for example, if you have let's say a specific asset that's within a very specific domain that you want to assign, you can assign it to let's say specific project, Pied Piper brand automatically, and then make sure that each new asset that corresponds a set of specific criteria that it has automatically assigned by the project and only to the project and only viewed then by the development team that's assigned to this project. So this is for the asset part. It's something that's also possible, let's say, for the new workflows, possible new issue, being sent to Jira. It's possible to create custom filters as well. So you can send a specific project and then map the properties in a very custom way. So, for example, depending on the priority and how it's defined, it's possible to send that, and then of course link to escape for the development team to log in and view the issue, and of course all the details here. For example, we have default mapping, so the summary is the summary for remediation that's generated by escape, but it's possible to disable it and customize it depending on the workflows. Actually, on that part, we're working with one of the customers as well to create a blog article on how they use that specific workflow in their environment. So I'll be excited to see how it will work out too. And of course, as I mentioned before, possible if the specific integration fail, notify different project members or organization admin if the specific application is down as well. It's possible to get notified. But I think to sum up, the quite cool part is the ability now to have those custom filters through predefined views, and the views are both for the ASM part, possible to define for both attack surface management part. Also, for example, for the security testing part, it's something that's possible to define and then implement within the workflows too. So to make sure it's adapted to how your teams work. So everything is very customizable, and specific workflows can be assigned to the specific project too. So that's a very brief overview, since we have 2 minutes left too. So if you're interested, there is a very detailed documentation on this topic. I think especially quite interesting part are webhooks, because they allow a lot of customization afterwards. So I've kind of played around with the NA10 there, but well, it's also need to be done securely if you're playing around with it. So because there was NA10 vulnerability recently too, so just need to be done carefully. Someone wants to implement that as well. We have 1 minute left. Is there? We will not have time yet for maybe every question in the Q&A, but I don't know who this person is, but yeah, I'll take the one of my preference. What would you say are the top 3 product functional strengths that Escape has over a competitor like Sneak? From Siad.
Well, I can start. I'm not specifically referring to Sneak because I'm not knowing Sneak that well, but I will mention something that very few DAST tools on the market have at this moment. One of them is the possibility to scanning for IDORs, and even more, you can add multiple users more than two, which means you can scan. There are a lot of scenarios that you can play with. Actually, I'm involved in that right now. I'm testing those functionalities, but it's something that very few DAST tools currently have. Um, another thing that I like is the new role-based access control in this case, and we basically made this access in a fully automatic way. So if when a team is requesting the onboarding to DAST, everything is automated from that point, so they will be able to log in and have access to their own project only. This is pretty awesome. And I don't have the third one in my mind now, but
I think that's already quite good. I think top and on your side, Gabriel.
I haven't used Sneak personally. I have heard of them. I know that they have really good CTF competition.
Mm.
But one thing that I really like with the Escape is that you can create custom rules for scanning rules for every technology that you're scanning. And I also would agree that I haven't seen so much API scanning as well. So they are also really good at API scanning. But those two are really good features, especially the detection rule. And you can also write your configuration, global configuration on how you want to scan. You can block also whitelist or blacklist some IPs or domains, and that's also really handy, useful. The role-based access is also really nice, actually. Yeah, I
Yeah.
would say.
Yeah,
Mm.
I know you've pushed a lot for role-based access.
Yeah.
So, well, I'm happy. Yeah, it's for both of you. It's very. It's great to see that it's very beneficial.
Mhm.
Uh,
Actually, I just remember one more. For example, the authentication, that
and-
AI-based authentication. Comparing with some other tools that I've been tested in the past, it's working pretty good. So it's able to detect some clicks, and not necessarily to instruct to click on accept cookies on every button there, but it simply knows how to where to click. Of course, there are complex login scenarios that you will need to instructed, especially where to click, but in the most of the cases, it's just working, and I like that.
yeah, I think it's something definitely that simplifies life of a lot of
Yes,
people, especially I think you have on modern web apps, and yeah, that's quite definitely has been a lot of positive feedback there on that part as well. I'll put, yeah, if someone wants to know, I'll put link in the chat for more information too. Well, I think, yeah, we're a bit over our time. Thank you so much, guys, for sharing your insights, sharing your experience. It was a pleasure chatting with you. Sorry for the audience, we didn't have time to address all the questions in the chat, but we'll maybe follow up with the blog article on that. So, yeah, thank you again, guys, and have a good evening.
Thank you.
thank you. Bye bye.